I never lose, either I win or I learn. Those are my only options, to whomever it may concern. About to be a hot topic, play with fire, you get burned. Ain't nobody give me nothing, whatever I got, better I earn. I never lose, but I learn. I either win or I
Thank you for
learn.
listening to the
Those are my
Strong
only
AF
options.
podcast.
This episode is brought to you by our Weight Loss Transformation Masterclass. After spending over 30 years of my life being obese and dealing with chronic constipation issues, I decided to get my certification in fitness, nutrition, and wellness to empower myself to lose over 70 pounds and keep it off.
Watching my brother and dad have a heart attack within weeks of each other, I knew I had to make a change, but I wasn't sure what to do. After researching and studying to get my certification in fitness, nutrition, and weight loss management, I was able to use this knowledge I gained to lose over 80 pounds and keep it off.
Now we're passionate about helping others to avoid the same mistakes that we made and changing the world through holistic health and wellness. So our approach is focused on mindset because overall health, including our mental health, means everything to us.
Imagine waking up with more energy than you imagined possible, no longer worrying about digestive issues and bloating.
We're here to show you how to ditch the fad diets and make small changes in your lifestyle, which will make a massive impact on your quality of life.
These are changes that you will be able to pass on for generations to come. Go to veganstrongandfit.com/masterclass today to sign up for your free masterclass and get started on a happier, healthier journey.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Strong AF podcast. I'm Ashley.
I'm Yuri.
And tonight we're going to be talking with a wonderful guest, Stacey Ruth, who after founding 2 multi-million-dollar agencies and being among the top 50 entrepreneurs under 50 in Atlanta and awarded not once but twice the top 100 agencies by Experiential Marketer, all before the age of 40, Stacey had the outward appearance of success. But she has been walking on fire, both literally and metaphorically. As a novice entrepreneur, she made nearly every business decision mistake possible and still managed to thrive. Her business survived 2 divorces, the fallout of 9/11, and deep recessions, teaching her how change is not a thing we manage, but a fire that transforms individuals and organizations. The real secret is in how we embrace our personal transformations and make friends with our discomfort. She shares her secrets and tactics in her new book, Own Your Own Shift: The Power, Passion, and Freedom to Be Unstoppable. Welcome, Stacey. We're so glad to have you on.
I'm so excited to be here.
What a wonderful bio there. Like, oh my goodness, that's a great resume right there.
A lot of success, definitely.
Absolutely. No, it's always something that happens visibly while you're paddling like you know what underneath. So definitely a lot of energy in that.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about your journey, because you've had quite a journey there.
Yes, and I think the majority of that, I've been an entrepreneur. I'll put it that way. I've been an entrepreneur for 33 years, and that has been a journey that I did not set out to do. That's one of those things that kind of happens when you're kind of going with the flow sometimes. And it really wasn't until I reached my 40s that I really started looking at being more intentional about it. And that was actually, I'm tickled to be on this podcast because that was also a time when I actually started exploring my health, which suffered greatly during that time of entrepreneurial momentum. I had some serious health issues, and I started exploring my diet, which was one of the reasons that I was excited to be on this podcast.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so exciting. So, and I know how that can be because, you're so focused on business, right? And your career and growing that sometimes we just put ourselves on the back burner, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. And not just putting ourselves on the back burner, but putting um, what we really want on the
Mm-hmm.
back burner, putting um, other people's opinions and maybe,
Yes.
oh, I don't know, maybe those kind of girls, you read the awards and you read,
Mm-hmm.
the financial reward, which is great, but it also can be a distraction from what we really want.
Right.
And that was what was going on for me. It looked good, it sounded good, but it
Yeah.
wasn't always necessarily healthy
Right.
or satisfying or
Yeah.
fulfilling.
And
Mhm.
it's one of those things that you have these awards, you have these successes, but people don't always see what's on the inside and what you have to overcome to get to that point. And that's what this podcast is all about, is
Mhm.
taking difficult situations and overcoming those. So tell us about the obstacles that you were facing as you were growing your business and how you were able to overcome that.
I'm not sure there was an obstacle I didn't face. I will tell you some of the stories on myself. I mean, when I started my first business, it was 1997. There really wasn't an internet. Um, it was, I guess, the twinkle in Al Gore's eye, but there wasn't really an internet. And so starting a business at that time was very different than it is today. I won't say that the barriers were huge, but there are certainly less barriers now than there
Hmm.
were at that time. I had no idea what I was doing. I knew how to do the work. I
Hmm.
started it as a graphic design agency, but I had no idea about running a business. And I think a lot of people who are either thinking about running a business or are just starting to run a business or have been running a business for a while will understand what I'm saying when I said, "Oh, I'm going to get up with the sunrise. I'm going to have a cup of coffee at my desk and the birds will be singing and I will do wonderful things and I will
Hmm.
I will be done at 5 o'clock and I'll go make a magnificent dinner and I'll get a good night's rest." And yeah, no, that lasted about a week. And from there on in, basically what I did was I recreated the sweatshop experience that I had known where I worked at one of the world's largest production companies was where I was before. And I recreated it for myself and I was a horrible boss. And I was a horrible boss for quite some time. And you could certainly talk to some of my employees, but I was a horrible boss to myself. And that was something that I didn't understand the real value of the work that we were doing. And I
Hmm.
wasn't able to take care of myself in that regard. So we were working ourselves into the ground for not enough, return for that.
Right.
And then we kept doubling in size and revenue every year. Now, think about the growth track that involves. And when you have no idea what you're doing and you're growing that fast, you've got a tiger by the tail.
Hmm.
And that's when we really started to experience, or at least I did, others in the organization did as well, the health issues.
Hmm.
And I started having headaches 24/7.
Wow.
And it was just too much. I wasn't sleeping well, and it just was highly stressful. And so I was a little bit out of control. And then 9/11 hit,
Mm.
and we lost. I would say probably about 30% of our business, but our nearest competitors were going out of business.
Oh, wow.
So it was a really tough time in the marketing, and we did a lot of live marketing.
Hmm.
And, after 9/11, people didn't know where they were going. And
Right.
I really, really think it's remarkable right now in COVID. I'm having flashbacks because that's what
Mhm.
it felt like for our industry at the time that we were all traveling um, and everybody got grounded.
Yeah.
One of my clients was supposed to be on one of the planes that went down, and he missed his flight.
Oh my
Wow.
gosh, that's so. It's great that he missed his flight. I mean,
Yeah, but I mean
that
that's
would have
how
been
close it
so
was.
close. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Hmm.
Oh my gosh, it's scary.
Yeah. So there were all of those things. And then I wasn't managing the business well. So we brought in a bookkeeper that cooked the books a little bit
Oh,
and ran away with my identity. And
oh my gosh.
I got to play detective and hunt her down.
Wow.
And she was wanted in 3 other states.
Oh my gosh.
He only did a background check in Georgia. And
Oh.
she didn't have a record in Georgia. So,
Oh,
so you know,
man.
when I say I made every mistake possible,
Yeah.
I really think I made every mistake possible. I also married while we were running the business. I married one of my business partners and then divorced him 6 years later.
Oh,
And we still kept running the business.
wow. How was that?
You know, it actually, I think we handled it very well.
Good.
But the thing is, when anything like that goes on within the organization, the employees feel it, no matter how nice you
Mhm.
play in the sandbox.
Exactly.
The clients feel it, no matter how nice you play in the sandbox.
Mhm.
And so those kinds of things were really what kind of taught me that if I'm going to build these relationships with clients and businesses, and I'm still connected in business with, have clients that I had during that time.
Mhm.
And those kinds of relationships are built not based on the mistakes that you make,
Mhm.
but they're built on the, excuse me, they're built on the emotional bonds that you
Right.
build with people. And also coming back to your original statement, how well we know ourselves.
Mhm.
And so I think that that's a big practice for me, is to be able to know myself better so that I can make it through all of these
Right.
exciting times that we're in better.
Yes.
Right.
So I'm curious with that said, and you were relating, what happened in 9/11
Mhm.
and your business during that time to what's happening now with COVID. So having gone through that in 9/11, how were you able to adjust with COVID going on to help your business?
Well, it's really interesting because I had a track record, and I didn't have it by myself, but I'm running my own business now, as a consultant and coach and speaker, um, and author. So I am my brand now,
Mhm.
right? But at the time, what I was really learning was how to build a brand that's immune to what's going on.
Mhm.
And in COVID, my business has tripled.
That's amazing.
Now, I'm not saying that to brag, and I'm careful who I say it to,
Right.
because a lot of people are saying, well, that's nice for you,
Yeah.
but that's not working for me.
Right.
And I understand that, but I do believe that most of us, although we may need to, as they say, pivot or shift what we're doing, are absolutely capable of making those changes
Mhm.
and thriving even in the middle of what you might call a hot mess.
Yeah.
So I believe that we have it in us. We have to be able to stop, be still, get to know ourselves. We also have to understand what it is that we might be doing to detract from the
Mhm.
connections that we have out in the world. This has been a beautiful example of where we're connected and where we're not connected.
Exactly. And I love that you brought up the point that, sometimes we have to pivot, right? And we can't always be set in our ways. We have to
Yeah.
pivot and adjust and shift to what's going on in the world today. And I think we're prime examples of that. So in December, no longer of last year, but of 2019 now, we had just started a travel business. Yeah, it seemed wonderful at the time, right?
Absolutely.
And
And then
then,
about 3 months in,
yeah,
COVID.
exactly. And it was like, okay, everything's shut down. And even the travel that's allowed, I don't feel ethically right promoting that because of everything going on. And we're like, so what do we do?
Right.
And we had no idea what to do. I mean, we kind of went through our own little breakdown at the time, but then we were like, okay, now we had our emotional point. Now let's stop and like figure out what to do.
Right.
Meanwhile, we decided to make our shift to vegan early March, right? Right when the pandemic happened. And so about June, we had so many people asking us, like, how are you losing all this weight? How are you doing this? How are you doing that? And we were like, we've got to help these people. So we started helping, our
Oh,
friends
that's
and our
awesome.
family, and then it ended up growing into a business. So it came
Well,
unexpectedly.
yeah. And it sounds like to me, if I'm hearing you correctly, what you did was you lived into your values.
Yes.
You lived into a purpose of how you can give back at the same time as you're being conscious of your own
Right.
growth and well-being and thriving,
Yes.
right? But both health
Exactly.
and business, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's really, for me, that's where it comes from. I have to know my purpose. Now, my purpose doesn't have to be my business.
Right.
It does not have to be. It just happens that it involves one of the skills that I have.
Yes.
And it sounds like that's true for you too. Is that
Right.
yeah?
Yes, exactly.
And my values inform my purpose, if that makes sense. In other words, if I know what it is that matters to me and what I stand for, like, I'm not going to take people somewhere I believe that
Right.
is not ethical to do. That would not be in alignment. I could do it, but that
Right.
wouldn't be in alignment with my values. Then you're standing for something, and that energy is attractive.
Yes.
And that's what I really have been focusing on myself during this interesting time. Isn't that a Chinese curse? We live in interesting times. During this interesting time is really building those emotional bonds that are in alignment with what I want to show up as, right?
Exactly.
And I think that's true, because we do share a dietary preference. And so, that really helped me feel like I was living into my values as well. Now, that's not necessarily part of my business,
Right.
but it does show up in what I do in my work, right?
Exactly.
It makes a huge difference. And it's very satisfying, but the thing for me is that attraction, and also letting go of something that is less than what I want to show up as,
Exactly.
because I have to make space for what I want to show up as.
Yes. That's exactly right. And I think that a lot of people, they feel like if they repel certain people with their actions and by following, their morals and their beliefs, that they're going to repel certain people. And that scares them because they feel like they need to open up the gates to all. And I think we felt like that in the beginning. But as we began to really understand who we are and focus on us and the message that we want to portray to the world, then that's when we started letting that stuff go. We don't have to be for everyone. Our message is for a lot of people who need it, but it's not for everyone.
Absolutely. And I think that's I love the strength message in that, because I really do believe that in order for us to really show up in our true power, and that's what we're really talking about, is showing up in our true power, our authenticity, we really have to understand that, people say, women are my customers, or they say millennials are my customers, or those are just impossibly huge demographics. And I like to say, if you're trying to appeal to everybody, then you're not going to have a brand, you're going to have a bland.
Exactly.
It just does not work. But at the same time, that attraction of the people that are resonating with your message actually grows. There's a thing that you need a magic, like 10,000 in an audience to get momentum, but that's all you need.
You had mentioned some of your health when your business was starting. What kind of health problems did you have, and how did that make you transition into a vegan lifestyle?
Well, for the large part, they were, I would say, 100% stress related. That's actually one of my big soapboxes. If you want me to get on a soapbox, it will be about the cult of stress and busyness that our society is in. And so I was really looking to get away from the processed foods. I was looking to get away from the antibiotics and the hormones. I
Mhm.
was looking to um, really, for my health, but also to improve my sleep,
Mhm.
to uh, uh, shift the hormones in my body,
Right.
to, you know, basically have a wholer, healthier life. And at the same time, I was starting to see a lot of the stuff that was going on around factory farming and how that was actually infecting our food. And so I was step away from that. And when I started eating differently, I started experiencing that I felt lighter. I felt
Mhm.
more energetic. I still had to deal with my own stress issues,
Right.
but it helped create the tipping point for
Mhm.
me, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Definitely. Because I know
Yeah.
as we started transitioning, once we went away from the processed foods, the caffeines, the sugars, and stuff like that, like you said,
Mhm.
you get a ton of energy. You just wake up and it's like you may have had 4 hours of sleep, but you feel like you slept 10 hours. And then
Yeah.
the whole mental clarity where you're able to focus on
Mhm.
everything, it's just amazing.
Mhm. It really is. And it's funny because I don't talk about that dietary shift in my book, Own Your Own Shift, but the process for me of moving from eating consumer food
Right.
to the healthier, I did it gradually.
Mhm.
And I think that that's something that a lot of people think they have to go cold turkey on
Right.
any kind of shift. I do talk a little bit about my weight loss journey, but the idea that we do something and we want immediate results,
Mhm.
and then we want to go right back to the way that we were.
Yep.
And so when I started phasing out the meat, I used I used fake meat
Mhm.
initially as a crutch, and then even that didn't really have a lot of appeal. But I got to do it in a way that um, was that kind of letting something go and then bringing something in and
Yeah.
replacing the habits was a big
Exactly.
deal.
I know a
Mhm.
lot of people talk negatively about the faux meats or the mock meats, but I'm a huge advocate of them, especially because they help you to kind of break away. People
Mhm.
don't go vegan because they hate the taste of meat, right? They go vegan because of animal rights,
Mhm.
environmental,
Health.
health issues, and so
Health issues, yeah.
yes, there are all those different reasons for transitioning
Mhm.
to a vegan diet, and the hating the taste of meat is not generally one of them. So this is a great way to transition you over with something that you're more used to. And again, like you
Yeah.
were saying, go in gradually and be able to work your way through that. That's why with our clients, like we never shove them off full force in. And most of our clients, actually all of our clients so far, have not been vegan. We just incorporate more plant-based meals into their lifestyle to make it a lifestyle and not just a temporary change.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what I discovered right off the bat was I never liked the taste of meat because I found that meat didn't really have that much taste.
Yeah.
It was actually the texture and
Mm.
then whatever sauces and flavorings went
The
with
flavorings and the
it.
seasonings, yes.
And that was easy to replace, and
Yes.
that fascinated me a lot.
Right.
But I had I had the opportunity to work with a very large client hotel association, and about 80% of the owners of the hotels are continental Indian.
Mm.
And so you've got a very large vegetarian
Mm-hmm.
population and not necessarily vegan, but there
Right.
are some vegan, but mostly vegetarian. Although in many cases they're sort of flexitarian.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
But when we were putting on the events, they wanted their own dietary. So the vegetarian meals were all Indian. And that was a really interesting because the flavors there are
Yes.
ramped way up,
Yes.
but it was absolutely delightful and our entire crew that was not vegetarian were actually requesting the vegetarian meals because they were so fun and different and tasty and high spice. And so it turned into quite the
Yes.
little taste adventure for them. And they didn't care at all that it was vegetarian.
That's amazing. There's a wonderful celebrity chef in Charlotte. We actually got some food from her for Thanksgiving, Chef Joya, and she had come out and said that, people don't really like the flavor of meat anyway. That's not what they're going for. They're going for the seasoning. So why even have the meat, right?
Yeah, because if
Exactly.
you really love the meat, you would just eat it by itself. You wouldn't
Right.
season it. You wouldn't put
Correct.
any salt,
Yeah.
pepper, or anything on it.
Mhm.
But you season it with everything.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. No, it's been quite an adventure. So when I first started and got vegetarian recipes, the one of my favorites, it's not that healthy, but it's a bean casserole with Frito chips on top of it.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, it's so good. Comfort
It's
food.
better than the alternative. It's
It
better
is
than the
That's
better.
right.
alternative.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
That
definitely,
sounds
definitely has made a
delicious.
difference for me. And so I think now it's been what, 15 years?
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, the
You don't
real
miss it at all.
impetus, I really don't. I certainly don't crave meat. I
Mm-hmm.
find it difficult sometimes to find food, but it's becoming easier
Right.
and easier everywhere I go.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so not so much. And I've found it very interesting that most restaurants, even if they don't have something truly vegan on the menu, they have an off menu item
Mm-hmm.
that they're just, keeping on the side.
Right. Exactly.
So yeah, no, definitely has been relatively easy. But no, I don't crave meat at all. Mm-mm.
That's awesome. I know one of the other things you were talking about, like aside from the dietary issues, is the stress, right? That you were going through, and that's huge,
Mhm,
especially I'm in the corporate world, right? So
mhm.
it's always rewarded for coming early, staying late, putting in that extra time, even if you're not really getting a lot done, because what we found is you can be more productive with a shorter time frame
Right.
because our attention spans, number one, are that not that long, and then number two, the stress kicks in and it makes it much more difficult to focus and get things done.
Mhm,
So we're putting in all these extra hours, giving our bodies all this additional stress,
mhm.
and we're not getting any rewards from it.
Right.
So
In fact,
how are
the
you
rewards drop.
exactly,
Mhm.
how are you able to manage that stress and turn that around?
Number of things. One of the things that I do is I have a non-negotiable, and that is my morning routine. And in my morning routine, I I call it brain decluttering. I put some good stuff in my brain. I do a little
Mm-hmm.
reading. I journal and clear up any unresolved thoughts that are rattling around in there. And then I do meditation, and then I do some exercise. I don't know how many years I went without even doing exercise. Good Lord. But that's my non-negotiable
Mm-hmm.
morning. But then throughout the day, and this is a relatively recent discovery, maybe a year or so that I've been doing this, and I cannot tell you how much more productive it makes me. Every 20 minutes, take a break.
Mm.
And Jim Quick talks about this in his book Limitless, not to plug other people's books, but it's a great book.
Yeah.
And he talks about the brain science behind that. And you don't have to get up for long,
Mm-hmm.
a minute, 2 minutes, go get a glass of water or whatever. But that allows our brain to be in its natural focus rhythm. That is just
That makes
fascinating
perfect
to me.
sense.
Yeah. And I do keep lists in my journal, rather than setting a to-do list. Now I have a to-do list, and I'm looking over here going, do I really want them to see my to-do list? But what I do is I set intentions, 5
Mm-hmm.
intentions for the day, not what I want to do, but how I want to be.
Oh, that's wonderful.
right? And then at the end of the day, I do gratitudes,
Mhm.
not for what I did, but how I was, how I showed up. And that has shifted my whole context around. I'm not a human doing, I'm a human being.
Right.
And the doing happens around that. It's not, you can't avoid it. It
Right.
happens around it, but it's not the focus.
Oh man, I'm going to be putting that into practice. That's amazing.
Yeah, because when she said the 20 minutes, I'm like, oh, I got to do that.
Yeah.
Take a
I'm
break.
telling
20
you
minutes.
what, if you have to at first, just set a little alarm every
Mhm.
20 minutes. Do that for a couple hours. It'll get you kind of in a rhythm. You'll start to look for it, like Pavlov's dogs, you know. But it does make a huge difference.
Yeah.
The other thing, don't forget to breathe. I think
It's hard sometimes.
I spent 20 years holding my breath. I'm
Mm.
telling you. And it's there is nothing in the world that is worth that. And along with the stress, and how we give people. I was guilty of this. I said I was a bad boss. I absolutely did this. I would praise people that worked nonstop
Mhm.
and went above and beyond the hours. I was praised for it when I was working for somebody else. But what we also do as a society is we have praise for people that don't sleep.
Yes.
Mhm.
Doctors, lawyers, first responders. Oh, you're not sleeping? Great. You must
Mhm.
be working really well.
Right.
And we talked a little bit about this earlier. We also praise people for not honoring their own authenticity.
Mhm.
And I will tell you, I don't see this as much as I did, but even family members would make snide comments about my diet choices.
Mhm.
I have friends in the transgender community and the LGBTQ, right?
Mhm.
Right.
I mean, I, I I just want to honor how courageous
Right.
they are, especially right now. Oh
Mhm.
my goodness. And all of these disenfranchised people, but we're doing it to everybody.
Yes, we
We're doing
are.
it to everybody. And it's I have a belief that, and this is me. I've heard other people say it, but I don't know how widely held it is. But how we treat animals
Mhm.
shows how we treat one another
Mhm.
and how we treat ourselves.
Yes.
So that's a big deal for me, is to be as kind and
Mhm.
compassionate as I can of anybody on whatever their journey is. Now
It-
that doesn't mean that I'm going to be a doormat, but to be as
Right.
kind and compassionate as I can be. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. One thing that I hugely believe is that our differences make us who we are.
Mhm.
So we should never try to change anyone or make them feel bad about
Mhm.
being different and having different
Mhm.
beliefs.
Right.
You don't have to necessarily agree with their beliefs,
Right.
but you should be open and understanding and listen to them. And that's what makes it so great to be together, right? Is to have different values, different opinions, different experiences all coming together, and that's what creates an amazing world.
Well, it is, but I think it's very rare right now.
Hmm. It
Certainly
is.
on social media.
Yes.
It's we've lost misplaced and lost. We've misplaced a large part of our humanity.
Hmm.
And I think the humanity is what you're talking about. Let me
Yes.
find a way to connect with you. Right now, it seems more like let me put you in a box um, and decide where your edges are,
Hmm.
rather than trying to connect.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay to disagree, But I think people need to have conversations. These conversations need to be had. That way people
That's
can be
right.
heard
Mhm.
instead of lashing out or just dismissing something that somebody may oppose to what they're saying. Just hearing each
Mhm.
other out, trying to understand one
That's
another
right.
without judgment, without just dismissing, oh, that's wrong. I'm not even trying to hear that.
Mhm.
Well, and it's interesting how our brains work too, because what you're really talking about are our belief systems. And you can't reason your way through a belief.
Right.
And that's why I'm fascinated. I guess we'll go there. I'm fascinated by the uh, resistance that I hear to movements like Black Lives Matter.
Mhm.
And I just, my mind boggles at people that are saying, I, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not racist. I don't know what you're talking
Right.
about. And it's like, honey, it's a cultural belief that we're holding.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, you know? And yet it's a cultural belief.
Mhm.
And so to get someone to start working on their belief means we have to even acknowledge that we have it in the first place.
Yes.
Mhm.
But the next thing that we have to acknowledge is that it is causing us pain. And there are a lot of people that are not in pain enough
Right.
to change their belief system.
And to change your belief system, you have to first examine yourself.
You have to
And
be in
that
enough
is the
pain.
hardest part.
Yeah. There's a chapter in Own Your Own Shift where I talk about being sick and tired
Mhm.
of being sick and tired. And until we are sick and tired of being sick and tired, we're not going to change anything.
Exactly.
You know, until I was on my knees with my health issues,
Mhm.
I wasn't going to change anything that I was doing because, you know, I had all those wonderful outward trappings of success. I looked good, right? And we're so cruel to our own bodies in the
Mhm.
process, but we're also cruel to one another in the
Yes.
process. And the only way you change a belief is to go in there and start working on it and
Right.
start looking for a replacement idea. And that's one of the ways. I don't know if that was in my bio, but I'm also a metaphysical minister, and part of what we do, we help people shift their beliefs.
That's awesome.
Right. So if somebody's struggling with health issues, or they're
Mhm.
struggling with relationship issues, or what, we go and look for the belief that's behind that.
Mhm.
Right. And that's the power of prayer, to shift
Mhm.
the belief. Right. But in order to get in there and shift the belief, you have to really be able to say, I'm willing
Mhm.
to try to believe something else
Yes.
for a minute, just a minute,
Right.
and see if that works better.
Mhm.
And I can always go back to that old belief if it's
Right.
safer, right? But that's how we get people to move out of their comfort zone, is you only have to try it for a minute. And then you go back if you want to.
Right.
Yeah, that's the main thing. We try to get our clients to understand, like, why are you so down on yourself? If you continue to speak this negativity,
Right.
you're going to stay there. You're not
Mhm.
going to go anywhere else. But if you start speaking positivity in there instead of, I'm going to try, or I can't do this, just say, I can do this. I'm going to do this. Once you get your
Right.
mindset straight, you'll believe in it and you'll
Mhm.
try harder and
One thing
you'll
we
reach those
don't,
goals.
one phrase we don't allow in our house is I'll try. Because if you say I'll try, you're leaving an excuse for yourself to not do it.
Yeah, there's already an
That's
out.
right. That's right. Absolutely. But we also have to be our own cheerleader. I mean,
Right.
we need a tribe. I think all of us, especially if we're making a very difficult shift,
Mhm.
and I think a lot of people are making some really difficult shifts right now. We also need a mentor. We
Mhm.
need somebody who will walk with us through it, call us on our stuff, hold us accountable. And that's what I hear that you're doing for
Yes.
folks. You're holding them accountable, but in a way that says, and you also don't get to beat yourself up about it
Mhm.
because you're a human being.
Right.
And that's a really important component of it, I think.
Yes, definitely. So tell us more about your book, because I'm really excited to know about this.
Well, it's really kind of a story of a number of different transformations that I've made. You've heard about the weight loss journey. You've heard about the business journey a little bit. My relationship journey as well with with my many husbands. But what it really is for me is the ability to look at difficult personal change, personal transformation, personal shift, and run it against the matrix of how we actually just make changes all day in our lives. And we just don't even think about it. We don't give it a second thought. Oh, it's time to move to another city. Okay, I'll handle it. No problem. I mean, even if it's not a no problem. Oh, new baby. Okay, life's going to change, right? And we just move through it, most of us. But then somebody's having a hard time losing weight, or somebody's having health problems, or somebody keeps walking through the same pattern of relationships over and over again. What is going on? And so this book is about helping people who are in those kinds of transformations feel stuck. I kind of hate that word because it gets kind of overused, stuck. But in the midst of a difficult transformation, and helps them understand the path through it. There's 12 stages of whatever transformation we're going through. It's almost like the stages of grief, but this is the stages of transformation. And it's not difficult to do, but the harder that a transformation is for you, the more impact it has on your own, I'll call it your soul's evolution.
Right.
And so that's your work to do. So let's get busy doing it. Let's lean into it and walk through that. There's a ton of exercises for folks, meditations, the ability to meet and have a conversation with your higher self, access your intuition, just a lot of great stuff like that. And then along the way, I tell the stories about my fire walk, my skydiving, other kinds of decisions that some people might think are a little risky.
Yeah, the skydiving is crazy.
I did
That's immediately what I thought. As soon as you said skydiving, I said, yeah, she's crazy.
But it's absolutely wonderful metaphors for when we really do make those kinds of transformations, how disorienting they can be, and how we can feel like it is life and death. And it's really not. In all of those situations, I actually was very well informed and very well mentored through them. But at the same time, it was really remarkable to me how disorienting they could be. And that, I think that's a big piece of those kinds of deep shifts, is there's a disorientation to it. And there's also a tendency to, when we get so far, to get on what I call the pink cloud. And it's like new love. And we're super excited about it. And the endorphins are hitting and we're just bazonkers for it. And then when those start to fade, we lose interest. And I think that happens for a lot of people that are shifting their diet. It happens for a lot of people in relationships, unfortunately, and it also happens for business owners that think this is going to be, pie in the sky when they start their new business. And I got news for you. It's not. It's got a lot of hard work behind it. So, yeah, so it kind of looks at it from all those angles, definitely.
That sounds amazing. I'm definitely going to have to check that out.
Please do.
Now, where can our listeners find that book?
Oh, right now it is coming out this Friday on Amazon. So I would love folks to check it out on Kindle, check it out in the paperback. Super excited about it.
Awesome. We'll provide
a lot of workshops on it. Yeah.
That's great. We're going to provide all the details for that so our listeners can find it easy in the show notes and be able to go in and get that, because that is amazing. Congratulations on launching.
Yeah, no, I'm very excited about it. All of the folks who have gotten the advanced copies have been very enthusiastic about it. So I'm hoping that this really does resonate with a lot of people, and that, I mean, part of my purpose and my value is to be able to share what I've learned and give it back to the world. I certainly hope, especially right now, especially this year, and in the middle of what we're doing, I hope that it gives a lot of people hope.
Yes, definitely.
That's amazing.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think
So
this
that
year
is
has opened up
something
many
that
people's
I'm
eyes.
very keen on doing.
Yes, most definitely. I think this year has opened up
I think
many
it has.
people's
I think it's
eyes.
made a lot of people. Well, yeah, I do. I think it. I think it opened up a lot of eyes. I also think people are starting to experience sadness.
Mm-hmm.
They're starting to feel some. Well, a lot of people not starting feel grief.
Yes.
Um, feel a certain sense of I don't know what's going to happen next with that unexpectedness. It's almost like coming through a war zone.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the reasons that I think that this book is very helpful, because it really talks about, look, you're going to be dealing with uncertainty. There's no guarantees
Right.
Mhm.
in what you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
but you are responsible for the actions that you take. You're
Yes.
responsible for the beliefs that you hold about yourself. And when you're ready to move through this, you can.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
And I think it's difficult when you first start taking these risks and making these changes, because it is uncertain. But as you start to make those shifts and you, I guess, become more assured of your intuition, right? Because it's our intuition that's pushing us into these changes. And once you are more confident in yourself, it makes it a lot easier for you to continue making these changes in your life, and change becomes easier.
Yeah, because definitely once you
Yeah, and
invest in yourself and you know who you are,
right.
once you really connect with yourself, the rest of it is easier. You're more confident and able to venture out on these things and just have that faith in whatever you're trying to pursue.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely. I think one of the biggest things that my clients say to me in regards to intuition is, how do I know I can trust it? And it's actually not that their intuition has ever betrayed their trust. The better question is, how do I recognize it?
Mm-hmm.
And the key, here's my handy tidbit for the evening. The key to recognizing intuition is that it does not attach to emotion.
Mm-hmm.
So the intuition just knows,
Mhm.
go here, do this, say that. When we start getting super excited or scared, that's not your intuition.
Yeah.
That's your ego.
Mm-hmm.
And so the difference really comes in that stillness. I don't ever think of it necessarily as a small voice. Sometimes it can be very loud and unavoidable,
Hmm.
but it's level.
Mhm.
It's not, wee, or oh dear, I'm scared. I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's exactly
Mhm.
right.
Yeah, so that's a very powerful tool, and being able to create that connection between the 90% of our brain that is, I'm going to say unconscious, not that it's less than, but it's just
Mm-hmm.
not actively on the conscious level. There's 90% of our brain. It's not that it's not doing anything and we're not using it. It's going a mile a minute. We're deciding things 10 seconds before we're even aware that we've made a decision. But, and that's actually researched and
Wow.
proven that every big decision that you're actually making it underneath the surface. And then you're conscious of it 10 seconds later.
Wow.
Mhm.
Isn't that crazy?
That is
That's the power of the unconscious mind. And we're worried about trusting it.
right.
It's pulling the
It's
strings
doing its
anyway. You
job.
might as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely you're right. I mean, it's what's really moving us forward.
Mm-hmm.
And our ego has a job too. It's a good job.
Mm-hmm.
Keep us safe, right? It wants to keep us safe.
Right.
It can just get a little out of control.
Yeah. Exactly. We have had an amazing time with you, but before we go, we have some rapid fire questions that we have to do, okay?
I'm excited. Let's do it.
All right. So weights or cardio?
Oh my gosh, cardio.
Cardio. Do you have a favorite cardio?
Jogging, and I do it almost every day.
Awesome. Favorite fruit?
Yeah. Hmm. Um, hmm. I I like halos or mandarin oranges.
Oh, yes.
So do our kids.
Yes. They can eat like a bag
Blueberries
in a
are
day.
blueberries are a close second.
Oh, that's good. Especially when they're fresh and in season.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Favorite vegetable?
Based on how often I eat it, broccoli.
That is like a show favorite. That has
I-
been very popular.
I gotta love it.
That's yours too.
Mhm.
Favorite comfort food?
Oh, it's the carbs. Mac and cheese.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some really good ones out there.
There are.
I like mashed potatoes. Oh my
Oh,
God.
yes.
Just potatoes in general, because that's the only thing I
Okay.
crave.
Yeah.
Just potatoes in general. Yes.
I don't care if they're mashed,
Oh, the
baked,
carbs. Oh, the carbs.
fried. It's just the potatoes.
Yeah. And first thing that comes to your mind when you hear the word vegan?
Mm. Well, I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind when I hear the word vegan is the first time that I was really aware of it was at a Paul McCartney concert.
Oh.
Yeah, so that was back when his wife Linda was still touring with him. That's how old I am. But anyway, that's what first comes to mind.
Nice. And last but definitely not least, where do you get your strength from?
I truly do believe that I get my strength from my inner core. There's a lot of ways to reinforce that, but that inner core, that intuitive voice, the higher self, whatever you want to call that, yeah, definitely.
That's amazing.
The inner fire.
Awesome.
I love that, the inner fire.
Mm-hmm.
That's so great. Thank you, Stacey, for coming on with us. We have had such an amazing time.
Absolutely.
And we cannot wait for everyone to check out your book.
Please check out my book. Yes, ma'am. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.